Okay, so this lesson is on simple interest and how it's calculated. So the definition of principal is the amount of money invested or borrowed. It is the amount of money invested or borrowed. Think about the principal as kind of like being when you buy a house or you buy a car. It's the actual amount of the original loan that you get. So that is the definition of principal. As far as interest go, you probably pay interest on a cell phone or something like that. That is just the fee paid for using other people's apostrophe s money, and it's also called a finance charge. So if you bought a car or if you're interested in buying a car, you're going to want to know the interest rate that you get, because it's going to determine how much money you have to pay back when you're trying to finish paying off your loan. So that is the interest, the fee paid for using other people's money, also called the finance charge. When you bought a cell phone, you may have, if you financed your cell phone, I know recently they started doing that, they may have asked you to pay a finance fee just for having that ability to pay on it monthly rather than paying for it all up front in advance. So the interest rate is just the percentage paid or charged for borrowing money. So let's talk about the interest rate. Most of the time when you see the interest rate, it may come up as being 3%. And that looks bad, I'm sorry. But make sure that you remember to change a percent to a decimal. If the decimal place is behind the 3, then you would move it 2 places to the front, so the decimal would end up in the front. So 3% is actually equal to 0.03 hundredths. So when you do your multiplication, just know that you're going to use a decimal, so you're going to have to convert. As far as simple interest is just the interest that is paid only on the principal balance. The interest paid only on the principal balance. The simple interest is not added back to the principal balance. It's just the interest that you pay for having that available. All right. Next page. The formula for simple interest is just I equals PRT, where I is going to be your interest, P is the principal, R is the rate, times the time. How many times you will, the years. Okay, so let's do a practice problem. We get better with practice. If $1,000 is invested for 2 years with a 3% yearly interest rate, the amount of simple interest earned is. So we take our same original equation, I equals PRT, and the principal amount that we're going to plug in is going to be 1,000. The time is a duration of 2 years, and the interest rate, like I told you before, with the rate being 3%, you want to turn that into a decimal. So if the decimal is behind the 3, you move it 2 to the left. So you're going to end up with 0.03. So then we just multiply all of those. Interest is going to be 1,000 times the rate, 0.03 times 2. And once you put that in your calculator, you should get $60 even. So that means if I take $1,000, put it into some kind of account for 2 years, and I only get 3% yearly interest rate, at the end of 2 years, I'll earn $60 without even having to go to work. Let my money work for me. So as far as what is the period in terms of interest is just the interval. Let's switch here. Okay, it is going to be the interval of time during which interest is calculated and applied. Okay. So it's the interval of time during which interest is calculated and applied. So we have a simple table here. It says fill in the table below. So if we have a monthly interest rate, that's once a month, then we would have the period would be 1 month, and so we would have a total of 12 because everything is based off of a year. So I would have 12 here. That would mean 12 payments a year. If it's quarterly, that's every 3 months. So a year, which is 12 months divided by 3, I would have 4 periods within a year. If it's semi-annually, that means twice a year, so every 6 months. That means I would only have 2 periods per year in which that interest will be calculated. And then annually, that's just 1 year, and typically everything is calculated annually. So you're going to have to pay attention, because once they switch to monthly, quarterly, and semi-annually, it's going to change and affect how you calculate your interest. Write down the formula for calculating a periodic interest rate. So it's something that's very important that I want you to keep in mind. Let's change this to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so when given an annual rate, that means yearly, when given an annual rate, but the period is not a year. That's when you're going to use this. Okay, so that's when you're going to use this. I'm going to put like a little star or something by this, because I really want you to write this down, because it's going to become important a little bit later. So we want to make this very, very important. So I'm even going to go back and highlight it in red, because I think you really need to know that. So when given an annual rate, but the period is not a year, this is how you calculate the periodic interest rate. So I don't know. It's just not the best way to write this, but I'm going to try. So you take the periodic interest rate, that is going to be equal to the annual interest rate, and if I need to know what it is per month or quarter or whatever, and I'm going to divide that by the number of periods a year. So if it says semi-annually, then you know you're going to have twice a year. If it's quarterly, then that's 4 times a year. And if quarterly is bothering you, just think about, you have 4 quarters in $1. So if it says quarterly, just know that it's going to be divided by 4. Okay, period per year. Sorry, my handwriting isn't great, but that's okay. Per year. That says year. So it's the annual interest rate divided by the number of periods per year. So, practice problem. If the annual interest rate is 12% and interest is calculated annually, what if interest is calculated monthly? I don't really like that, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that annually, because it's the truth, it would have to be 12%, okay? Because that's just one time a year. So 12% divided by 1, that's just 12%. But if we want to see monthly, then it's going to be 12%, which is 0.12, and we have 12 months in a year, so we're going to divide that by 12, and that's going to mean 0.01 as a decimal, which is just 1%. That's your interest rate. And I hope you never ever get a I'm going to see if I can fix that percent sign. I hope you never ever get a 1% interest rate. Always try to get a higher interest rate when you're trying to save some money. Okay, there we go. All right, so up next, it says, suppose you have $45 to invest in a CD that pays simple interest calculated semi-annually. So the annual interest rate is 6%. How much interest will you earn after 2 years? So we take our same equation, the simple interest, because it tells you simple interest. The only thing is that it was going to change versus how we did it before. Simple interest, it says semi-annually. So if you see semi-annually, I hope you thought of 2, because that's twice a year. So we take our same, I equals PRT. And we're going to plug in our principal. That's the amount that we started with, what we invested. We invested $45. And our rate is going to be 6%, which I hope you knew as a decimal is 0.06. And our time is going to be, watch this, if we get paid, how much interest will you earn after 2 years, right? So it's 2 years, but it's semi-annually calculated. So 2 times 2. So this 2 right here represents the years, and this 2 right here represents the compounding interest. I hope that's the right word. It represents the semi-annual interest. So our time is going to be 4. So then we plug that in. So our simple interest, equals 45 times, now we got to divide those because our periodic interest rate, that's what we needed to know. So 0.06 divided by 2 times 4, because that's our time. So once you calculate those in your calculator, and if you're having problems with putting 0.06 into the calculator divided by 2, press alpha y equal to get to a fraction. So this person is expected to earn a total of $5. Whoops, I pressed the wrong button. $5.40 in simple interest. Okay. So then it says the next step is to explain the concept of time value of money. So time value of money, the most important thing is that money gains value over time. So money gains value over time. That's going to be our definition. It's the concept that money gains value over time. Okay, so stretch that out right there. So, and what I wrote, I made a little note for myself. This means $1 today is worth more than $1 in the future because the dollar continues to gain interest. So meaning, like the example from Apex is, if I give a friend $100 and they pay me back, did I lose money? Well, in my opinion, I did, because I could have took that $100 and invested it into some account, and I probably could have got, like, I don't know, 10% if I was lucky, like really, really lucky. So if they gave me $100, well, if I kept my $100, put it in an account, got 10% back, well, within a year, I could have had $10 on my 100. So, but it's always good to help a friend. So if you can, be helpful. It's nice to be nice. So the notes look a little bit different, but that's okay. We're going to keep it moving. So it says, write the definition of the following: the preset value. And the present value. I'm going to write that on the next one. The present value. The present value, and this is your definition from the other page, but the present value, it is the amount that a future payment will be worth today. Amount that a future payment would be worth today. Okay. Whoop. Uh-oh. And then the future value is just the amount to which a specific sum will grow in the future. So let's get here. Future value. The amount to which a specific sum will grow in the future. Boom. Okay, so present value amount, not the amount that a future pay. I don't know why this did that like that. It's the amount that a future payment would be worth today, and the future value is the amount to which a specific sum will grow in the future. So from my example from before, $100 invested at a 10% rate has a future value of 110 at the end of a year. So B says, what is the formula for calculating future value for interest? The equation for doing so is, let's see, future, whoops, let me go back. That looks bad. Okay. Future value, it's going to be the present value plus interest. Present value plus interest. And what it looks like in symbol form, they just put FV equals P times 1 plus the periodic interest rate times the time, the amount of times that you would get that payment during that cycle. So let's give one a try. So it says, what is the future value of a savings account that earns 12% interest each year, calculated monthly after 5 years, that initially was $325. So we're going to start with our same equation as before, right above it. I'm going to put FV equals to P times 1 plus R. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I must have pressed the button to cut it off. But we're going to use the same equation that's up at the top. The future value is equal to the principal times 1 plus our periodic interest rate times the time. So the future value is what we don't know. That's what we need to find out. And we know that our principal amount that we invested is $325, and that our rate is 12%. Which as a decimal is 12 hundredths. And then we know that our time, now don't forget, is calculated monthly. So monthly, know that in the end, we're going to have to end up dividing this rate, that's 0.12 by 12, because it's a periodic interest rate. And then for the time is how many times within 5 years you will get this payment. So 5, but then there's 5 years, and then we have 12 payments in a year. So 5 times 12, we end up with 60. So we have all of that situated and set up, and now we can plug it in. So I'll write my equation again, because I like to write the equation right above what you plug in, so you can kind of see where things fall. So the future value is going to be the 325. That's my principal, times 1 plus my rate, which is 0.12 divided by 12 times 60. Why 60? 5 times 12 is 60. Oh, can't move it over again. Okay. But that should be times 60 in parentheses. Okay. So, when you put this in your calculator, remember if you're struggling with 0.12 divided by 12, just hit L for Y equal, or go ahead on and simplify that before you plug it in. So the future value is equal to $520, and that's going to be your final answer there. If you need some help, go ahead and do some practice problems or ask me, and you're ready for your quiz. Have a good day. Love you.